Alright, it's December 21st now, and I'm just going to be continuing the review of the Murderbot Diaries Book 7 System Collapse that I started yesterday. This time I'm just going to have my phone sit here and you can look at my homemade pronoun pins, because this is not in particular to Book 7, but there's a serious problem in this fandom where people think that people who use its pronouns only exist in fiction. And I hope from my damn pronoun pins here that you can see that this is not true. And these are just 2 of them. I've made a bunch of them. I just can't be bothered to go and get them all right now. This isn't particular to Book 7, but it is relevant because this is one of the issues that has been running throughout the series since Book 1. And Book 1, yeah. Okay. The problem is that Murderbot uses its pronouns, but we've never actually been told this outright within the series. And that's just bad because, and we know explicitly from Book 6 in the publishing order, Fugitive Telemetry, whatever the damn one with the murder on preservation is called, we know that Murderbot explicitly does not include its pronouns in its feed bio that it was mandated to have on preservation. Its feed bio literally just says sec unit, gender indeterminate. I'm pretty damn sure. But I know for a fact it does not include pronouns are itself or anything like that. We're just supposed to assume from the indeterminate gender that its pronouns are its. And that's how biologically essentialist cis people think. It's also how biologically essentialist some trans people think. But the problem is that's just biological essentialism and not how gender or pronouns work. Yes, we are just going to be talking about pronouns, and we will loop back to how this is relevant to the book. You can have whatever pronouns you want and be whatever gender you are. You don't have to use the pronouns that quote unquote match your gender. You can be a man and use she, her, or they, them, or its, or z, them, or literally any pronouns you want. Same for women. Same for non-binary people. Same for literally any gender. You can use whatever pronouns you want. Pronouns do not have to match up to your gender, and match up is in quotes there. And you can't tell somebody's pronouns just from looking at them, unless they're literally wearing a pronoun pin, like these ones. So what does this have to do with the Murderbot Diaries? It's because despite Murderbot using its pronouns, which are neopronouns, and never actually telling anyone this, ever, and not including these in its feed bio, explicitly not including these in its feed bio, everyone magically knows that Murderbot's pronouns are its. And when it's pretending to be a human, they just magically don't use any pronouns for it. If you reread Book 2, I just forgot what they're called. The little baby humans. You know the ones. The adorable little baby humans, as they are referred to. They literally do not refer to Murderbot with a single pronoun, because they don't know what Murderbot's pronouns are, despite the fact that they've hired it to be their security consultant, and it doesn't list its pronouns anywhere, so they literally don't use pronouns for it at all. And, this is not how that situation would work. Murderbot didn't even list, I don't use pronouns, in its fake, I'm totally a human, you should hire me job profile. These people just hire a person who doesn't list pronouns in their bio and then decide to just not refer to them with any pronouns at all, instead of just asking, hey, do you use any pronouns? Do you want us to refer to you any specific way? Nope. And if you think, no, that can't be right, trust me, I read the book 3 times just to be sure. You can go and read it if you have it on hand. If not, go to your local library. If your local library doesn't have these books yet, make an official request for them to get them. That is helpful to the author and helpful to the library because it shows people are using the library, which means they should, in theory, get more money to do their basic expenses. And no, I don't think these books are on the web archive yet because we're going to donate some. But anyways, the problem here is that everybody just always assumes everyone's pronouns in these books, and they're always magically right and never have to be corrected, even though explicitly, until now, book 7, literally, it's taken book 7, nobody has ever listed their pronouns in their feed bio. Just their gender. And knowing Martha Wells and her biological essentialism, that's probably just listing their literal biological sex. Or at least biological sex as she sees it. There's a whole lot of problems in regards to Martha Wells and biological essentialism and the ideas of sex and gender that are especially prevalent in the books of the Raksura. And I guess we are just going to talk about this now. I'm not going to explain the situation. You can read the books and find out, because they are good, despite my criticisms of some aspects. In the books of the Raksura, there are 2 characters who are incredibly heavily coded as trans. And you may be thinking, what does that mean? Coding, sometimes called transcoding, queer coding, race coding, anything like that, is where a character is not intentionally written by the author to represent a group of real people, but the author, because the author's brain does not exist in a vacuum and interacts with the world around it, unintentionally gives this character traits of real groups of people. And that's called coding. It doesn't have to be on purpose. It can be entirely by accident. With a lot of racist authors, you'll find that they are coding their villains as people of color, or Jewish people, or Muslims, just because of the way the characters dress or the notable features that the author feels the need to point out. And this is because these authors are racist scumbags. And they are putting their biases into their work, even if they're not, intentionally, consciously going out of their way to say, oh yeah, this child-snatching alien from Mars is totally Jewish and evil. And just, yeah. I've been reading a bunch of old sci-fi books, and these people are so fucking racist. Jesus Christ. Anyways, back to the problem here. In the books of the Raksura, there are 2 characters who are extremely transcoded, and unfortunately for them, because the things that make them transcoded gets them treated like absolute shit within the narrative and by the other characters. Hold on, I'm getting a drink quick. Alright, one of these characters, I'm trying to not tell you things, but it's kind of difficult. Alright, one of these characters is transcoded in that if we were being literal and assigning one-to-one things between the Raksura's 6 genders and the 2 white Western binary genders, then as a metaphor, this character is a trans man. Not really, not literally, but that's That's the kind of situation. Going from a more oppressed class to a one that is given power and all this kind of bullshit. Not really. This is the most simplification I can do for people who have not read the books and will have no fucking clue what I'm talking about if I start talking about Raksura and genders, okay? Just roll with it. And this character is portrayed as a villain, and he's a terrible person. And it's not because he goes around beating the shit out of innocent people that it's literally his job to protect. No, that's not why he's a bad person. He's not a bad person because he's cruel and selfish and tries to murder visitors to the damn colony for fun. No, he's a bad person because he is... There's also a whole bunch of classism just baked into this shit because the Raksura have caste systems and you're just born into whatever caste and you do not get to leave that caste no matter what. Oh, there's so many goddamn problems. So, this character is literally a terrible fucking person because of what he actually does that's bad, which is, namely, beating the absolute shit out of innocent fucking people that he's supposed to be protecting. Innocent fucking people who have done nothing wrong. He's literally just a fucking vicious bully and abuser. But that's not why we're not supposed to like him. We're not supposed to like him because he doesn't know his place. Because he wants to be a gender that has more power than the one he was assigned at birth. So that's why everybody hates him and is embarrassed by him as soon as somebody who's actually that gender comes along and kicks him out of his spot. Because he's not actually... We're just going to have to keep going with this metaphor because I'm not explaining all of the Raksuran genders to you. He is literally shunned by his colony, his family, his whole entire family, as soon as an actual man shows up, because he's not a man. He's not a real... I'm not explaining it. We're not doing that. Okay, I guess I do have to explain it. There are 6 Raksuran genders. There's queens, consorts, female warriors, male warriors, mentors. Yeah. There's female mentors, male mentors. Warriors are the lowest fucking caste aside from... No, hold on. I'm doing this wrong. Hold on. Okay. There's queens and consorts who are the royalty, and they're just born into that position. Everybody does everything for them. They can do whatever they want. Below them are warriors who get treated like shit and are told that they're useless despite the fact that nobody ever lets them help and literally won't even teach them to help. And God, there's so much shit going on in these books. And they're good. But Martha Wells didn't really think through all of the metaphors she was creating. And, we're not doing this. We're just skipping past. We're going to keep talking about River. Everybody hates River because he's trans. Not because he's an asshole. And that's the one character who's transcoded. He gets treated like absolute shit. Not because of anything he's actually done wrong, but literally just because he's trans and doesn't know his fucking place in society. And if that is not a fucking metaphor for trans masculine people, or trans men in particular, I don't fucking know what is. And it's handled atrociously. Clearly. And I do want to make this clear. Martha Wells was very clearly not intending for River to be transcoded and to read as a metaphor for a trans man or a trans masculine person or anything like that. But her intentions don't matter once the book has been published and it's in our hands. This is what this book ended up doing. River's a bad person. Not because he goes around beating the shit out of people, but because he's trans. And he should know his place in society and not rise above his position. Like I said, there's a whole fucking bunch of classism mixed in with sexism, and it's just so bad. Alright, well what about the second trans-coded character you mentioned? You might be asking. Well, this character, I'm not explaining it, was forcibly sex-changed against his will by magic. And this is not even a metaphor. This is literally what happens. He got a magical sex change without his consent, because it turns out their species is like clownfish. If you don't know about clownfish, and a bunch of different fish. It's not just clownfish. There are a bunch of species in the world there where if, like, there's a group of fish hanging out and there's, like, 7 females and, like, 2 males, like, one of them will turn into a male or something like that, or vice versa, to help even out the numbers. And that's extremely common with a whole bunch of species. And it turns out that the Raksura are like that too, but nobody knew it. But it's not specifically to balance out the numbers, it's due to a reaction of continued stress on the colony. And the colony is what their living groups are called. There's giant cities of everybody being related. So they're just giant families. So the second character, due to all of the strain and stress being put on his family, just wakes up one day as the completely different sex and obviously starts flipping the fuck out. Because why wouldn't you? And also, I feel like I should mention that the Raksura are not human, if you have no idea what I'm talking about. They're shape-shifting dragon people. Some of them have wings, some of them don't. And just, it's a whole big thing. So when I say this character magically got a sex change, I'm not just talking about down there. It's a whole thing with the number of limbs you have, how big you are, what color your scales are, all of this stuff. It's extremely fucking noticeable. And yeah, so he wakes up one day with a magical sex change, and nobody has ever fucking heard of this happening before in his family. And he's fucking flipping out. And eventually calms the fuck down again. And, unfortunately, things don't really improve from there, because this is the problem with Martha Wells' biological essentialism, and the biological essentialism specifically baked into the world of the Raksura without any criticism or critical thinking at all. It's very, well, this is how you're born, that's how you're gonna stay, unless you get a magical sex change against your will, and you don't get to change it. And if you want to change it, that's too bad. Okay, well, alright. There's a third character who's not particularly trans-coded, but I guess you could say he is too. But no, he's absolutely framed as a mentally ill, in the scary way, quotes around, scary way, serial killer. Why? Because he doesn't like the oppressive caste system and gender roles of the Raksura. That's it. That's why we are told he's a fucking scarily, mentally ill serial killer who is so mentally ill in the scary way. And can you tell how fucking sarcastic I'm being? I hope so. Mentally ill people, especially specific kinds of mentally ill people, are incredibly fucking demonized in our society. And Martha Wells has serious ableism problems when it comes to mental illness and addiction and lots of fucking disabilities in her work. And it's not the obvious, oh, I think wheelchair users are stupid thing. But we'll get to that. I swear, we will. So this character, not especially transcoded, he literally just does not like the fact that once you're fucking born into a caste in Raksuran society, that you are just forced into a specific set of roles that you will be expected to carry out for the rest of your life. And you literally can't change it. You can't do anything else. And if you try to change things, you will be fucking exiled and shunned and killed, probably. And this is... it's bad. Because we're not supposed to go... like, we are literally supposed to see the fact that this man does not like the oppressive system in his society and think that that makes him scary. Because the fact that he doesn't like the oppressive system in the society is equated with the fact that he's apparently a serial killer who's mentally ill. Like, she doesn't say the words sociopath or psychopath, but you can tell that's what she was going for. And if I need to explain to you why calling serial killers fucking mentally ill, and especially extremely stigmatized mental illnesses, like calling them sociopaths or psychopaths, if I have to explain to you why that's ableist, then in 2023, then there's just no hope. Anyways, this is all leading back to Martha Wells's love of biological essentialism. Character C, the person we're told is a fucking serial killer because he's this world's, he's the Raksuran equivalent of a fucking feminist. Literally. Like, imagine if you read a story where a feminist, a person clearly espousing feminist views, is a fucking serial killer and is the only feminist in that fucking world. And the fact that they're a feminist is equated with the fact that they're a fucking mentally ill serial killer. Imagine. You can understand how that is incredibly misogynistic. And that's what's happening here in the books of the Raksura. But because he's a man... Just kidding. He's a male. Because... Please read these books. They're really fucking funny. This part, not... You'll find out once you read the series and then reread it again. The first book is extremely hilarious in hindsight. Because this is a male Raksuran who's a feminist. I don't even know what Raksuras would call people who want gender equality because there's so many genders that are not equal. So it can't just be called feminism because, like, there's so fucking many of them. There's, like, so many genders that are being oppressed in the current Raksuran caste system. They'd have to have a whole fucking brand new word to call their equal rights movement. So yeah, he is considered a fucking mentally ill serial killer in the most ableist fashion because he does not agree with the biological essentialism of his society, which says if you're born X, you have to do Y. If you're born into the warrior caste, well, you're just a lazy sack of shit who's worthless, and yeah, you're just gonna be treated like shit. If you're born into the Arbora, well, you definitely love cleaning. You totally adore doing everybody's chores for everyone. Never mind the fact that you are doing literally all the work. It's because you enjoy it, don't you? Don't you? And yeah, it's literally all just biological essentialism. It's literally just saying that how you are born, or if you get a magical sex change against your will, what kind of body you currently have is what determines your role in society and in life. And none of this in the books of the Raksura ever gets treated with any critical fucking thinking. It's just, we are never actually expected to have a problem with the way Raksuran society is set up within the series, because none of the fucking protagonists give a shit, and the only person we have ever seen protest against it is the guy that we're told is a fucking mentally ill serial killer. So, yeah. And this is just the tip of the iceberg for the biological essentialism going on in this series. I'm not even going to get into the racism and explicit approval of eugenics, because that gets its own fucking video. So looping back to the Murderbot Diaries. Now we know what biological essentialism is, with some detailed, not really, examples from the books of the Raksura. So now we're back at the Murderbot Diaries. The problem, and why I've specifically chosen to show you my its pronouns pins right fucking here, is because you may guess that I am not a goddamn robot. I'm not a construct. I'm not an android. I'm a fucking person who actually exists in reality. The problem with biological essentialism, and specifically with the biological essentialism in the Murderbot Diaries, is that everybody just magically knows what Murderbot's pronouns are, and everybody magically knows what any robot so far as pronouns are, because their pronouns are literally just determined by biological essentialism. All robots use its pronouns. No humans use its pronouns, because its pronouns are something that only exists in fiction. Not really. And anytime, like literally, I've said it before, book 7 is the only, or maybe I didn't say it before. I did write an actual review that I wrote down. This is not being read off a script or anything. So anyways, book 7 is the first time we see the words pronoun appear in this series at all, because I literally checked. I checked every single short story, which there are 2 of them, and every single novella, whatever the hell you call them, and the 2 novels now. This is literally the first time the word pronoun appears. Ever. Because despite the fact that the protagonist uses neopronouns, despite the fact that many characters that have been introduced so far use neopronouns, nobody ever needs to ask, because everybody's pronouns were determined at birth. And this is a problem. And we've never seen any humans who use its pronouns, and we've never seen any robots of any kind that use pronouns other than its. We've never seen a robot with a gender that is not just, no, gender doesn't exist, gender sucks, etc. Or why would I have a gender? I'm a robot. And stuff like that. And like, that'd be fine for a few characters, but if that's literally all you've got, then you have no idea how gender works at all. And it's just biological essentialism. What does this have to do with book 7? You might be demanding at this point, because we're half an hour into the fucking video. Well, I'm just going to keep rambling, because I'm autistic and I have ADHD, and there's a lot of problems with this book. And there's a lot of problems with this series, and this book is just, like, magnified them. Okay, no. Early in book 7, we get a random one-off character who never appears again, who uses the pronouns vir, as in V-I-V-I-R. Cats are messing with things. This character appears for like 5 seconds, to tell us some exposition and then leaves after like maybe 2 pages total and is never seen again. And if you read book 2 of the Murderbot Diaries, you might be thinking, hey, didn't that happen before? Yes, it did, with Rami, who uses T-ter pronouns, T-E-T-E-R. Yeah, Rami's gender is tercera, which means third, and we know that Rami's pronouns are T-ter, literally only just because ter gender is tricera. Tercera. Why did I say tricera? Not a triceratops. Tercera. T-E-R-C-E-R-A. And Rami, just like this new character in book 7, all the way back in book 2, Rami appears, has some neopronouns that we only know because of gender essentialism, assuming that pronouns must match gender. And then Rami's on screen for like probably 2 minutes, not really doing much, just kind of sitting and maybe having a few inconsequential lines with the 2 other completely interchangeable human characters who are new in this book. And then Rami, with the other interchangeable character, just disappear off screen, never to be seen again. Never. And Murderbot spends the book hanging out with someone who uses she/her pronouns. And, like, this is just blatant tokenism. The only reason Rami was there was to get points for not doing anything actually committed to being progressive. There is absolutely no reason that Martha Wells couldn't have just had Rami and Tapan switch places so that Rami, the one who uses T-ter pronouns, the character who uses neopronouns, could have been the, I call them human sidekicks of that book. So that the neopronouns actually get used for more than 5 seconds, and that the character using these neopronouns gets to be more than a really blatant one-off token just to get easy praise for not actually doing anything to commit. If you actually care about trans and non-binary people, and especially neopronoun users, you would actually let us be main characters in your story. I'm fucking lucky because I use its pronouns, and there's a bunch of characters who use these pronouns. People who use other neopronouns aren't as lucky. We don't have any actual human characters who use neopronouns who exist for more than 5 seconds. And I'm getting a drink again. We don't have a single human character who's on screen for any time that matters, who actually matters to the plot and matters as a character, that uses pronouns other than he, him, or she, her. There's not even a main character who uses they, them pronouns. There's just some random background characters every now and then in book 6, which I'm just going to refer to the one with the murder on preservation, because they were published out of order. There's a random human in there, I think, who uses they, them. And there was, like, at least one mention of some random person. Well, no, I should correct myself. These people are being referred to with they, them pronouns. Nobody actually says, my pronouns are they, them, because that would require the word pronoun being in this book series before now, book 7. And the problem with the fact that nobody has ever told anyone their pronouns before is, again, biological essentialism, and it's also just really blatant exersexism, which is just bigotry and hatred of non-binary people. If you want to be an actual ally to trans and non-binary people in real life, then you have to get used to the idea that you can't assume someone's pronouns from looking at them. And especially with non-binary people, you can't assume people's pronouns from looking at them. Unless somebody's literally wearing a pronoun pin, you cannot tell from looking at them what pronouns they use. Especially because there is no way to pass as non-binary. There is nothing you can do that will make people look at you and immediately think, oh yeah, that person's definitely non-binary. That person is definitely not a man or a woman, and etc. So, yeah, we have these characters, 2 characters who use neopronouns so far, but both of them are just one-off characters who only exist for 5 seconds and then disappear after doing nothing for the plot, except for in the character who uses vir pronouns, literally just drops some random fucking exposition that honestly was completely unnecessary. We did not need to have that scene. And again, like with Rami, there is no reason that's not just admitting bigotry that this character who uses vir pronouns couldn't have come along on the main mission for book 7. Like, there's no reason. And if you think, oh, well, that'd be difficult to read or confusing, well, that's just because you're extra sexist. Like, literally. You're just a bigot. That's the end of the sentence. There's no argument against letting characters who use neopronouns be actually part of the story and actually matter to the story that's not bigoted. I think I already tried to explain the plot of this book, but it's just such a mess and so overcomplicated and drawn out for no reason. It's just bad. But anyways, we're going to skip ahead because there is another character where the word pronouns is used again. And this is like the worst example. Okay, hold on. I have to go refill the cat's water bowl because they just spilled it on the floor. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. If somebody can tell me how to stop cats from sticking their dang little paws into their water bowl and getting it filthy constantly, let me know. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh yes, the character later in the story where the word pronouns also appears for probably the 3rd or maybe just the 2nd time in this whole series, and that's just in this book. This is a character, it's not really spoilers because this character doesn't fucking matter to the plot and isn't important in any way. And I don't know why you're watching this review if you haven't read the book yet anyways. So this character is named Lucia, Lucia, and this character's gender, oh, hi, it's Carrie's stepping on my pronoun pins. Can you scoot your butt? You're just gonna stand there? Wanna say hi to the camera? He said no. Just don't knock things down. Oh, it's gonna get comfy. Carrots! Say hi. Okay, well, his tail's gonna be on the pin now, but as long as he doesn't knock the camera over, it's fine. Anyways, this character's name is Lucia. His gender is 2 lowercase b's, BB, which all of this is being translated from another language into the language that Murderbot speaks, and the gender part does not translate over. And that just means the gender wasn't explained. There's no such thing as a gender that doesn't translate. There's not really anything that doesn't translate. It just means it can't be translated into one word. You just have to explain it. But that's fine. The problem is not fine is that after Murderbot is told by the translator that this character's name is Lucia, gender BB, pronouns he, him, Murderbot just completely unfucking necessarily explains to us, the readers, that it only asked for this extra information besides the name, aka it only asked for Lucia's pronouns because it knew the humans would bother it if it didn't, and it doesn't give a shit about gender, and like it doesn't fucking make sense. Murderbot clearly, like, it's acting, the sentence after this, I don't feel like going to get the book to look it up exactly, but it's just like so unnecessary and ridiculous. It's acting like using people's fucking pronouns is suddenly a huge chore that's some human bullshit that Murderbot doesn't like. And first of all, that is just transmissic as shit for no fucking reason. Acting like asking for people's pronouns and using people's pronouns is a huge chore that's a waste of time is just blatantly transmissic. And if you missed the memo, transmissic is the word transphobic. But with the end, oh, thanks. Knock my phone down. Transmissic is the word transphobic, but with the suffix for hatred instead of fear. Because bigots they're not scared of trans people, they hate trans people. Hence, it's not transphobia, it's transmisia. This is also where the word misogyny comes from. Miso, hatred, gyne, women, females, blah, blah, blah. That shit. You can figure it out. What was I saying before the cat knocked the phone down? Oh, yes. Yeah. This is the first time Murderbot specifically ever asks for anybody's pronouns. And the thing is, we don't even see it asking for this person's pronouns. That happens off screen. And we're just told the results. And the results are that this character's pronouns are he, him. And then Murderbot immediately follows this up with saying, well, I wouldn't have bothered asking, but the humans would annoy me about it. I don't give a fuck about gender. I couldn't give any more fucks about gender unless I was unconscious. Or I couldn't give any less fucks about gender unless I was unconscious. Or something like that. And like, that's fine. You don't have to give a shit about gender, Murderbot. Or any other agender people listening to this review. But the problem here is that this is literally the first time any fucking character in this series, written by a cis woman, has ever asked anyone for their pronouns. And it's immediately followed up with a very clear statement that asking for pronouns and giving enough shits about other people to want to respect their identity is stupid and a waste of time and a huge boring chore. And that's just transmisia. That's what it is. And it's absurd. It's 2023. It's gonna be 2024 in like 2 weeks. Less than that. I'm not doing the fucking math. I checked on Twitter. And shitter, as some people are fucking calling it now. Because Elon Musk is in love with the letter X for some fucking reason. Martha Wells has her pronouns in her bio. Or at least she did the last time I checked. So she knows that pronouns and communicating them to other people is a thing. But for some fucking reason, she's just decided not to translate that over to fiction. And it's really fucking infuriating at this point. Because if you're in this fandom, you may be aware that, like, so fucking many people in this fandom and who claim to be fans of these books just misgender Murderbot automatically every time they fucking talk about it. And most of these people are misgendering it using he, him pronouns, which just is transmisia, it's exorcism, and it's blatant misogyny. Like, they're literally just admitting that Murderbot is too cool to be a woman. And they obviously don't fucking believe that non-binary people exist. So they're just combining all three kinds of bigotry into one. They're not just being transmissic. They're not just being extra sexist. They're shitting on women at the same fucking time. And then there's people who misgender it with she, her pronouns. They're probably the rarest fucking ones. And they think they're being progressive. Because, well, this is a cool character, so she has to be a woman. No, bitch, it doesn't. Misgendering non-binary people isn't progressive. If you want strong, funny, interesting female characters, go read literally any other Martha Wells book. Go read the fucking Fall of Illyrian. Tremaine is right fucking there. She's a woman. She uses she, her pronouns, and she is fucking hilarious. Don't give her fucking grenades. Goddamn. Like, you cannot create representation by taking it from other people. You're not being progressive by misgendering Murderbot with she, her pronouns, or pretending that it's a girl, or a woman, or female. It's not. It's non-binary. Its gender is indeterminate, or NA, not applicable. And then there's some people, and these are the most infuriating ones, who refer to Murderbot with they, them pronouns. And these are the most infuriating ones, because most of the people misgendering it with he, him, or she, her, are cis, or at least they're binary trans. The people who usually fucking misgender Murderbot with they, them pronouns are non-binary too. And they're the worst of the fucking lot because they should fucking know better. They are literally non-binary. And they are misgendering a fucking non-binary character. And they think that makes it okay. And it doesn't. Because it's just fucking ridiculous. It is not okay for non-binary people to misgender other non-binary people. And these fuckers who insist on using they, them pronouns for Murderbot will sometimes literally come out and say, I only respect non-binary people who use they, them pronouns. Everybody else can go fuck themselves. That's not how fucking reality works. They, them is not the non-binary pronouns. There's no fucking correct pronouns for non-binary people to use. Non-binary people can use whatever fucking pronouns they want. If you're non-binary, you can use whatever pronouns you want. Even if you're not non-binary, you can use whatever goddamn pronouns you want. You don't need to be trans to use other pronouns than the ones you were assigned at birth. You can be a cis man and use they, them, or she, her, or it, its, or stars, literally anything you want. Same for women. Same for trans women. Same for trans men. Doesn't matter if you're cis, trans, or anything else. You can use whatever pronouns you want. What you can't fucking do is misgender people. And that includes fictional characters. A lot of really obnoxious, ignorant fucking people think that it's okay to misgender Murderbot because it's a fictional character. And moreover, they think it's okay to misgender Murderbot because they literally fucking think that the only people who use its pronouns exist in fiction. Murderbot doesn't represent any real people, they think, so they're not hurting anyone by misgendering it. Despite the fact that people who use its pronouns exist and have for fucking ever. Just because we aren't as fucking visible as binary trans people or trans people who use they, them pronouns doesn't mean we don't fucking exist. But a whole fucking lot of people, including people in this fucking fandom, think that we're just fucking fake things that only exist in fiction. So, therefore, there's nothing wrong with them erasing our fucking representation. And it's fucking infuriating. And this is 100% also Martha Wells' fault, because she's the author here. She has a responsibility to explicitly convey the information necessary to this story. And that information includes the fact that, yes, Murderbot's pronouns are its. If you read just the first book, I will not fault a single fucking person for assuming that Murderbot's pronouns are something else. Because in the first book, there's absolutely no indication that Murderbot has chosen to use its pronouns. It just seems like those are what's being assigned to it, to dehumanize it. And, like, if this book had been written by a trans or non-binary person, or anybody who's just aware of how fucking gender works, in any real, meaningful way, then the first thing the preservation team would have asked, along with, what's your name, should have been, what pronouns do you want us to use for you? But that would require not having biological essentialist ideas of sex and gender. And that's the fucking problem here. Martha Wells, for some goddamn reason, does not want anybody in the Murderbot diaries to casually ask other people for their pronouns. Because that would disrupt the fucking biological essentialism that's rampant in all of her writings so far. And I know she does have a new book, The Witch King, and I have not read it yet. And I'm probably not going to read it until I can get it somewhere for free from the library or something. Because I have no money. And even if The Witch King has great representation and people asking for their pronouns, it still doesn't fix anything with the Murderbot diaries, where multiple characters use neopronouns, but nobody ever asks anybody's pronouns. It would literally, I tested it at one point. It would, for the first 6 books, because I did this before this new one came out, it would take less than 2,000 words total, and it literally wouldn't even need to be that many. That was just to add extra fucking info. It would be less than 2,000 words to put sections in each of the published Murderbot books and short stories, just simply where characters introduce themselves with their pronouns. It's that fucking easy. I could actually look up the examples I wrote, but maybe I'll do that for another video. This one's almost an hour long. So, and yes, this is just gonna keep being me rambling without any clear fucking game plan, because there is no script. I'm just saying whatever I want. And we'll get around to the book in particular. But all of this is on topic. You can't really talk about what's wrong with this book without talking about what's wrong with all the other books and everything that's wrong with Martha Wells's writing style and the biological essentialism and ableism that runs through it at every point. He's about to jump over here again. Come on. Hi. Thanks. Alright, well this video is 53 minutes long, so I'm just going to end this here. And then we'll just do another one after this is actually done uploading to YouTube. So bye-bye.